as we welcome to the Leon Loft, Chadwick Stokes and the Pintos. Welcome, gentlemen. What would you like to start with?
We're going to start with Hit the Bell with Your Elbow.
A terrific song, of course. This is from the new album.
One, two, three, 2, 2, 3. It was 29 years and dog years since I seen my little lady. See, I needed some space and time to kill all my highway thrills. And now I'm back in her old mill town. I've been dry and clean, and I'm ready to try this love thing again. And I will. I'm not going in any direction. But she smiled and said times have changed there. There ain't no bed for you here. And hit the bell with your elbow and come in from the rain. You can promise me nothing and I will do the same. I don't need you to cry for me, and I don't need you to cry. Just hit the bell with your elbow, yes, and come in with your hands up high. I told her I've been through a lot out there. Lost my Chucker Playboy boots at the river bottom, and I lost my Barracuda jacket in a bed gone wrong. But through it all, I heard the birds whistling your name. She smiled and said you can sneeze in a basket, but there ain't no bed for you here. And hit the bell with your elbow and come in from the rain. You can promise me nothing and I will do the same. I don't need you to fight for me and I don't need you to cry. Just hit the bell with your elbow, yes, and come in with your hands up high. And your pants down low, pants down low, pants down low, pants down low. Keep them bootlaces, keep them high and tight, high and tight. Pants down low, pants down low, oh they're low. You can't hide in me tonight. No, you can't hide in me tonight. But did you say that you had no place to go? Or that you had no place to stay? Did you say you had You either go or you stay. And hit the bell with your elbow and coming from the rain. You can promise me nothing, and I will do the same. I don't need you to fight for me, and I don't need you to cry. Just hit the bell with your elbow, yes, and come in with your hands up high. And your pants down low, pants down low, pants down low, pants down low. Keep them bootlaces, keep them high and tight, high and tight. Pants down low, pants down low, baby low. You can't hide in me tonight. No, you can't hide in me tonight. No, you can't hide in me tonight. You can't hide in me tonight. Thank you.
We are live on Ann Arbor's 107.1 here at the Leon Loft. Chadwick Stokes and the Pintos. Good to see you again, most certainly. I've been listening to a lot of congressional hearings, so my delivery may be a little different than usual. It's really affected. So, Mr. Stokes, you have a new album. Let's go to the facts, shall we? On page 47. I yield my time. I yield my time. Anyway, it is really good to see you again. And why don't you do, first up, introduce the band, introduce the Pintos, shall
I'd love to. Yeah. I'd love to. My old friend JR, who I met, we were washing dishes together, and he joined me pretty much right away on as a Pinto, and we went all around for the last few years, and then Dispatch has had some windy turns recently, and so JR joined Dispatch for the last 2.5, 3 years, and so we pretty much been partners, pretty steadfast, hip-to-hip partners for the last 6, 7 years. Tommy, this is Tommy on the bass, and he is, I met him through doing service together through our organization Calling All Crows. He was painting a mural on a music school that needed a little decoration years ago, and he was singing while he was painting.
That is a great story.
And when you hear him sing, you'll know why I was stopped in my tracks. And Willie I met when my mom brought him home from the hospital. And we've been attached ever since.
That's an interesting group. You have family, you have friends, and an interesting find on site out in the world. That's excellent. If I am reading things correctly, the songs on this debut actually sort of predate that Dispatch album in 2017, America Location 12. I mean, they've been around for a while, and you've been playing them live for a while. Is that right?
Yeah, a good chunk of them.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say about 6 of the 10 or 11 have been around for a while, for around that same time.
Yeah.
That was a time when I knew there was a Dispatch record that needed to be worked on, so and we didn't have our third child yet, and we just kind of got into a rhythm with a babysitter 3 times a week for our other 2, and so I had a bunch of time that I hadn't had recently, and I was able to kind of focus and get all these, because I kind of work on songs as time goes by, but I rarely have the time to finish them. So that winter that predated that album, I had time to kind of try to tighten them up.
And to know, perhaps in the writing, that they were not Dispatch songs, they were not solo songs, they were not state radio songs, that they needed to be some other entity?
Yes, I mean the way it really depends on the personality of the bands, you know, and the individuals kind of dictates where the songs want to go.
All right. The song you opened with, you know, that who can argue with 4-part harmony and just an awesome song? But you know, it has that band influence, the band influence. Like,
Yeah, for sure.
Is there a point in the song? Did it go in that direction and you go, all right, we got to go all in, or was it more like you set out to, we're going to do our version of a band classic?
Yeah, no, well, we love the band and we love the Dead, and so especially when a song lends itself to kind of that mid-tempo and those four, the harmonies. I think that was one thing. Willie brought me that phrase, hit the bell with your elbow, which means basically like don't show up empty-handed. And right away, it sounded like it could have been like a throwaway Dead song or something. So I was like, all right, I think I know how this one goes.
What do you want to do next?
We're going to do a song called Chaska,
Yeah.
which features Willie. He starts first on this one. In the back of the heart of Bloward County many, many years ago, I stood in the cold next to my mother and 38 men blindfold. And as the natives took their place singing their death song, the prison chaplain called their names, but he got one of the names wrong. Now I've been fighting with this notion that the world does a good man will. I've seen all around me a man do hateful things, and he's still walking around, you see, while the good one's gone. Some say there was no mistake, some say they wanted that man to be hung for falling in love with a white woman and caring for her infant son. And when he was first captured, she cried, "Don't take him, you don't know. If not for him, my bones would be bleaching on a prairie. My children would little crow." Now I've been fighting with this notion that the world does a good man will. I've seen all around me a man do evil things, and he's still walking around, you see, while the good one's gone. The ropes were placed and the drums they played, and the drums they quieted the crowd. And the men wailed and danced on the trapdoor gallows and yelled each other's names so loud. And when they heard their name, they yelled, "I'm here, I'm here." And they yelled out the bellowman's name for the heavens to hear. And the clergyman spoke on about Christ and how he died, and the axe was lifted high. All around me, a man do hateful things, and he's still walking around, you see, while the good one's gone. Yeah.
Thank you again. As I mentioned, and as you said, these songs go back a ways in terms of their creation, but then, you go back in history here with some of these songs. In fact, tell us a little bit about this particular song you just played, Chaska.
Yeah, that was it can be a long story. I'll try to distill it. About 350 something Lakota men were slated to be killed for punishment for a few raids that was happening in the 1830s. And President Lincoln pardoned 319 of them, but 38 men still went to the gallows on that day, and they're all hung at the same time. And it's the largest mass execution on U.S. soil done by our government. So that's the backdrop for the song, and then there's within that backdrop, there's a story of mistaken identity. That may have been a mistake and may not have been one.
And that was part of the original story as well.
Yeah.
Some of the themes that are on this album, some of the brutal bits of our collective history are on there, and then there are some contemporary themes that are equally troubling and disturbing, and trauma for people who have served in the military, gun violence. These are themes that come up, and I was wondering, and these are themes that have always come up in your writing, but I'm wondering if there is a sort of an emotional threshold that something has to get to that signals for you that you're going to have to tackle this in song. You're going to have to try to make some sense out of it using your art.
Yeah, I think there's so much happening these days, especially that it's like it's so hard to process. For me and the gun violence epidemic, it was Sandy Hook, and for some of the other stuff, I guess some of it's through the lens of being of just being interested in protest music and singing songs about whether it's historical or topical, and that's the music I really loved as a kid, so just being part of that tradition is something I really value. But I think maybe it's because I'm a dad now, but sometimes, there's when we have a song, I think that we'll play next, that's kind of loosely or thinly veiled song about immigration here in the U.S. And so some of that stuff just really hits home in that way. But lots of times it's when it gets so close, like like when a friend dies from a heroin overdose. When it hits that close, then that's when I feel like I need to, not necessarily like I need to write a song about this, but I need to exercise some of these demons or this worry, this angst, and I've always done that through playing music.
Yeah, I was going to ask if it was sort of outrage or if it's actually kind of a quieter introspection, like the burst of energy to get involved in trying to process it. Is it anger, or is it really more, what is going on here? Introspection that way.
I think for me, the channeling is pretty angst-ridden. I'd say it is. It can. I'm not very angry in my usual life. That's my wife's job. It's never really been my go-to disposition, but it is. It has, especially with state radio. It has been like that's where I go to let it out, or that's like a release for me. Is kind of having a place to. I think that's helped me over the years, having a place where I can let that out.
Yeah. You mentioned the song you're going to do next. I'm glad you're doing it.
This one is a long one, so prepare yourselves. This is about an alien family who leave their child on the moon, hoping that the Earthlings will adopt the child. We're going to strip it down. The song's called Blanket on the Moon. And we just started playing it live, and so it's, I think we've only played it mistake-free once. So they left me sitting here. I saw them talking with themselves about the way I would hopefully be found. Then they crouched down nice and low, and they whispered in my ear about the land that would have me in the end. My mother whispered to me again, goodbye, my love. This is where I disappear. Remember to drink and eat. Make your transmissions religiously. And the ship will come for you, I swear. Just leave your blanket on the moon. She said the earth is right there, a mere light second away. And the humans all look up in the most peculiar way. With that she brushed the moon dust off and turned to hide her tears. Are you coming back? I asked. She said it could be years that I should get some rest. Then she tucked me in for the last time as her heart broke in her chest. Goodbye, my love. This is where I disappear. Remember to drink and eat. Make your transmissions religiously. And the ship will come for you, I swear. Just leave your blanket on the moon. A better life awaits you, and I'll be right there. And shacked up against the moon, and I'll be right there. I'll be a blanket on the moon. The day the Earthship came, I was thrilled to see the light, and I waved with all my heart to show the humans I was alright. But as the ship got closer, it wasn't the kind that lands, more the kind that comes from an air missile defense. Just as I felt the first shock from the supersonic front, I was catapulted into space by the exothermic guns. And I hope I find someone soon, someone who won't destroy the moon. And all my wounds are cauterized, no xenophobic enterprise. And I'll be right there when you're shacked up against the moon. And I'll be right there. I'm reaching out again. I'm reaching out for someone to help me down. I'm reaching out again. I'm reaching out again for someone to help me out. I'm reaching out again. I'm reaching out again. Reaching out for someone to help me down. I'm reaching out again. I'm reaching out again. backed up against someone, and I'll be right there. I'll be right there. I'll be only once removed, and I'll be right Last thing I remember, I grabbed onto a microsphere, and I must have been talking in my sleep to all those who could hear, 'cause I woke up in mid-conversation with these little critters in formal dress, and they motioned for me to come as if I'd already said yes. They said I was lucky to be alive. They did not think anything survived. Goodbye, my love. This is where I disappear. Remember to drink and eat. Make your transmissions religiously, and the ship will come for you, I swear. Just leave your blanket on the moon. A better life awaits you soon.
We're going back to the station now. We're going to continue here at the Leon Loft with Chadwick Stokes and the Pintos. Their debut album, self-titled debut, that is out now. They will be at the Arc tonight. You can see them live, and you can hear the full interview that we're doing here on Acoustic Café in the weeks ahead. And we have been brought to you today by Sessi Mazda. And now I yield my time back to the radio station, Ann Arbor's 107.1. That's all I have to do to get applause, apparently, is that. But thank you, gentlemen, once again. In telling some of the stories on the album, interestingly, there are some bits of found sound, which is kind of cool and cinematic. And there's a President Obama speech that's excerpted. There's some other kind of random audio.
Yes.
But the inclusion of it really does make it this sort of... It's a soundtrack.
I remember in the studio being like, get really loving that stuff, and that, but also being like, is this too much? Too much? Too much? Like I get kind of carried away with like these little kind of textures, or like, like the sound of there's a sound in Blanket on the Moon of almost like a rocket ship going off, and it's just the air vent in the studio that I recorded with the iPhone, then emailed to the engineer. And my kids are like, they came in and we were like, sing a song, sing a song. They're learning French, so it's like, sing a song in French, and then we put that, then we make it backwards. So it's like, so there's the alien, little alien creatures.
It's just children singing in French backwards. Alien. Yeah,
Equals.
Okay. Equals. How old are they now?
They are 7, 6, and 2.
Oh, perfect. All right. There are also just some human snapshots. Besides taking on some larger social themes, there are just some snapshots. Tell me about the song called Second Favorite Living Drummer, which ends the album. Tell me about that.
Yeah. Someone gave us some, I think, good criticism that Mushi Quanux should have ended the album, which is this very light little, like 2-minute song, if that. But then I was like, well, think of Mushi Quanux as ending the album, and then Second Favorite Living Drummer is like as the credits roll. Right. So that's how I kind of frame it. But that song came about when my band State Radio was touring with Tom Morello, the guitarist for Rage Against the Machine, and
And the Night Watchman. He was doing the Night Watchman. Was that
Yeah,
the tour? Right?
yeah, it was almost was right before that.
Okay.
But yeah, he would just started, I think, doing the Night Watchman. But and there was some crazy characters on that tour, like Wayne Kramer from MC5 and Perry Farrell from Jane's Addiction. Then when we rolled into LA, we played a Troubadour, which is a relatively small club, and all of their friends came out. So that means Flea and Slash and Cypress Hill and Stuart Copeland and Steve Vai. And Jerry Cantrell from Alice in Chains. And so it was an epic night. We were just in shock the whole night. But Brad Wilk, the drummer for Rage Against the Machine, wasn't recognized by the bouncer and was not let into the sold-out show. And so that's what this song's about. And we were going to play that anyway. So
Oh, yeah, you want to do it? Yeah.
On the way to the venue, I can't believe it, can you? To be with all our heroes under the same roof in the town of James Worthy. We are far from being worthy, but we'll come and play squire to the rock empire. 'Cause I seen roses and I seen guns, hills to Cypress blinking in the sun. There's a flea in the machine, I couldn't stay all that long, and the bouncers quietly reading the rats and him. And my favorite living drummer was not let in. How's Baseland, baby? I think he met his wife now, maybe. 'Cause me and the dog, we were shaking, wondering where the bassman had taken. Oh, Jerry said you can sing Lane's part, but we didn't know the words as well as we thought. I need another try at this day, get myself squared away. 'Cause I seen roses and I seen guns, hills of Cypress blinking in the sun. There's a flea in the machine, I couldn't stay all that long, and the bouncers quietly reading the rats and him. And my favorite living drummer was not let in. Cypress blinking in the sun. There's a flea in the machine, I couldn't stay all that long, and the bouncers quietly reading the rats and him. And my favorite living drummer, I saw Alice addicted to Jane, and she wrapped her in her chains. And the police, they were all the rage, and the door was thin. My favorite living drummer was not let in. And the police, they were all the rage, and the door was thin. And my favorite living drummer was not let in.
And again, thank you. You mentioned Calling All Crows. This is the organization you formed with your wife, Sybil. We've talked about, in the past, we talked about Dispatch and sort of the power of bringing people together in place and time, at least to have that shared experience of being there together and like kind of pulling them out of an isolation that we all seem to be finding ourselves in, division and isolation, and bringing them together, which is kind of a nice thing. But this is actually to do community works and social action around several different themes. Currently, there's a hashtag Here for the Music.
Yeah.
Tell us about this current initiative.
Yeah, we're just trying to help curb the sexual harassment and violence in the music industry, where we see it most as live shows or festivals and things like that. So we the most hands-on thing we do is we do active bystander trainings before shows, before many of our shows, in which we get together with fans who are coming to the show later, this few hours before doors, and the venue staff, and we train them through a program that we were trained in and learned tools and mechanisms as far as what to do when you see something happening.
And this is a coordinated effort with other artists and venues and then
Yeah,
fans, as you say.
a bunch of bands. This has been, in terms of Calling All Crows' actions over the years, this is the one that's, for maybe obvious reasons, this is the one that's been adopted most by other bands and taken with them on the road, as well as promoters getting into it. And we'll call up the biggest promoters in the country and say, what's your protocol for when sexual harassment happens? And many of them didn't have anything going on. So
Right.
And some would say no comment, and
Venues.
and promoters
And
too.
promoters.
Yeah, like the biggest ones you can think of.
Yeah, sure.
Didn't have anything in place as to what do we do if X, Y, and Z happens. Because there's so many power dynamics in the industry too that it's just I was shocked to learn how prevalent the harassment is. I think as a male, we don't necessarily think as we're walking in to this venue, oh, what's going to happen tonight? But it's but that is the reality for so many.
Think about this for just a second. Think about any concert or festival that you've been to. Now really think about, have you seen or been a victim of any sort of sexual harassment at a venue? By applause, how many people? That's a fair percentage. That's a fair percentage. Yeah, no, because really when I first saw about that initiative, I did that same thing. I went, has this really happened? And then I thought about it for about 2 seconds. I was like, oh yeah, sure. Especially if you're adding music, huge crowds, alcohol. I mean, yeah. Power and money? Yeah, power and money. Right, sure. You add all together. And so anyway, people can find this online, Calling All Crows, and read about past, present, and hopefully future of that organization.
Yes.
Yeah. It would come as no surprise, Dispatch will have more music at some point, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Now, what did surprise me a little bit was I saw, and you may have just said it in an interview at one place at one time, but that you want to do a rock opera.
Oh, yeah. I've been talking about that for about 15 years now. So
Okay.
But it's coming. It's coming. The space, I'm really hoping. I feel like the more I tell people about it, I have to do it.
That's right.
It's one of those things.
Self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yes,
It's got to happen.
Yeah.
Look at Blanket on the Moon. I mean, it's like you hear that and you kind of hear it in parts and you say,
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, there's actually some songs, because just a quick follow-up to one of your earlier questions, some songs I'm totally saving for the rock opera. And that's a weird thing, because typically you should definitely put your best foot forward and put your best songs forward, and but lately there's been a little cabinet full of other songs that I'm not touching or I'm not going to using for the bands.
without asking about it directly, is there a theme that those songs are grouped around, which is why you're starting to see that as a cohesive possible rock opera?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's all I wanted to know. Listen, guys, thank you so much. I want to make sure you make it to sound check and everything. One more and we're good to go.
Yeah. Let's do Joan of Arc. One, two, three, four.
Once in her father's garden, at the tender age of 13, she had a vision of 3 figures. She knew them to be bygone saints, and she was so taken by their beauty that she cried when they faded away. She said, I can't stay here. The message they gave was clear. I must go save the king. Hey, sister, with your rat tail on, don't let them try to end your song. You know there's always gonna be people trying to get you down, wanting you to be like everybody else. So she asked her uncle to take her to a nearby town, where she petitioned the garrison commander for permission to visit the crown, though she'd rather have stayed home, spinning wool by her mother's side. She found a way to lead the Francais, only 17 years beside. Hey, sister, with your rat tail on, don't let them try to end your song. You know there's always gonna be people trying to get you down, wanting you to be like everybody else. She was captured by the enemy and brought before the church court. The illiterate peasant girl, of the likes none had seen the sort. She was convicted of wearing men's clothing. She said, I only did so that I wouldn't be raped. That's very nice, dear, but you're a heretic, it's clear. We'll burn you at the stake. Hey, 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 you know there's always gonna be people trying to get you down, wanting you to be like everybody else. Hey, sister, with your rat tail on, don't the people trying to get you down. Want you to be like everybody else.
Chadwick Stokes and the Pintos. In town tonight at the Arc.